Don't look now, but the Montreal Canadiens do have themselves a game later today. In fact, maybe about an hour or so. The Caps will take on the Habs in a 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time showdown. But before we dive into that game, before we feast our eyes on the Habs at home, I wanted to talk about a Hab who may no longer Hab soon. Ladies and gentlemen, we're going over the latest on Patrik Laine and his trade situation because, according to some sources, Pierre LeBrun, Elliot Friedman, turns out Laine has been given permission to seek a deal. First, take a look at this. It's Habs on Reddit. Pierre LeBrun on RDS says that the Montreal Canadiens have given permission to Patrik Laine's agent to directly talk to teams around the NHL. He also says that it's very positive between Habs management and Laine's camp. If the Canadiens are able to trade Laine, they will. Now, that is the agent. You then had comments made on awinninghabit.com. This is an article posted by Brandon Croce from earlier this morning. Canadiens reportedly grant Patrik Laine permission to seek a trade. In this piece, there is a comment made over here. The NHL trade deadline is less than a week away, and the Montreal Canadiens are seemingly in a holding pattern before they can make any additions. The holdup at this point is Patrik Laine, as the Canadiens need to move him to create the needed space to add to the lineup. He's making $8.7 million a year, after all, so that's very necessary at this point. The Canadiens are so determined to get a trade done that they have given Laine permission to seek out a trade, as mentioned by Elliot Friedman in a recent episode of 32 Thoughts. From Montreal's perspective, it makes a lot of sense to allow Laine to seek out a potential trade partner. He has played in only 5 games this season due to an injury, but has appeared healthy enough to return even before the Olympic break. However, the Canadiens don't appear to have a spot for him in the lineup, and one of the reasons that they'll try to move him is so that they can get him additional playing time. The main reason, though, they want to get a trade done is to create cap space so they might be able to make additional moves. And that cap space can't be coming at a better time. The trade deadline is a week away. We are less than 7 days before everything is supposed to freeze up here. And for Patrik Laine, his $8.7 million albatross of a contract definitely can be seen as a holdup in Montreal's plans. Might I remind you, there are only a few guys making near this dollar amount in general on the Montreal Canadiens. A lot of the top guys on the team are making less than $8.7 million a year. Laine is number 1, but then Nick Suzuki's making 7.8, Caulfield's 7.8, Slavkovsky is 7.6, and then on defense, you've got Noah Dobson and Lane Hutson just making north of that 8.7 mil. Hudson, of course, is only making $950,000 right now. That $8.85 million extension kicks in next season. Dobson, same thing, 9.5 mil, so he is over the Laine cap hit. But Montreal, just based off of the names and the money, they've been very good at keeping the money low and keeping some of these top-tier guys signed long-term. It's been a masterclass for Kent Hughes. Of course, you could kind of expect that, considering the guy was a former agent. But for Patrik Laine, now that the agent has gotten involved, now that Laine himself has been given the permission to seek a trade, all we can do is sit back and wait and see what happens. The fourthperiod.com's trade watch list heading into the trade deadline period has Laine linked to the LA Kings, and this is what Pagnotta goes out there and says. The Habs are shopping Laine, and as the fourth period's David Pagnotta reported on February 25th, there is a strong belief he will be moved ahead of the deadline. How much of Laine's $8.7 million cap hit the Canadiens retain, though, may dictate where he ends up, as he is in the final year of his contract. Teams reportedly linked are the LA Kings, so yeah, it seems like the Kings are linked to most forwards in the trade market. Vancouver has a bunch that LA has been linked to. Evander Kane, Elias Pettersson, Patrik Laine is all in there as well. But now we just sit back and we wait. I don't really think there are too many other teams that will be interested in taking on $8.7 million or even a fraction of that just to try to revive the profile that is Patrik Laine. Unless his agent and Laine himself can make a big enough pitch, say, yeah, 1 point in 5 games, that's because he was hurt. There's a much better goal-scoring profile that exists here, and you can take advantage of that. I'd say the Kings probably have a higher likelihood of making a desperation trade at this point, not just because of the Kevin Fiala injury at the Olympics, but because Andrei Kuzmenko got hurt recently as well. Kuzi is out, Panarin is in, so one Russian in, one Russian out, but then you also still lost Kevin Fiala. There may be no choice but for LA to go out there and try to get a Kane or a Laine or something like that. I mean, ideally, you would want to have Laine with a playmaking center, but yeah, the fact that he and Panarin could probably switch duties on the power play on that left side, I'd say that's pretty interesting. Panarin, of course, is a very gifted playmaker, and having him feeding pucks to Patrik Laine would probably provide a link that we haven't seen since the Panarin and the Kane days. Not that Kane is the goal scorer that Laine is or was, but still, there's a lot to like about the idea of Laine going over to LA. So with all that said, I want you to let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. How do you feel about the Montreal Canadiens giving permission to Laine's party, his agent, Laine himself, to seek a trade and to shop the client around? Generally speaking, that's not a great sentence to hear about a guy who is on the trade market because it essentially indicates that the player is not very desirable. But with only one team linked to Laine so far, the big question is that going to change? Is LA going to get their guy, or is LA going to get outbid? Is there really any demand for a guy like Patrik Laine on the trade market? If it's not LA, what team do you think fits the most? I think there are a number of other teams that could potentially use scorers, but at $8.7 million, it's kind of hard to pinpoint it down. What do you think is the trade price as well, and what do you think the Canadiens are able to do with the extra cap space they will be able to get should they trade Patrik Laine soon? And yeah, I mean, if you wanted to talk about the Canadiens and their lines, earlier today it was announced that Zachary Bolduc is coming back into the lineup and Alexandre Texier will be a scratch. I'm looking at it like this. If Texier is not even able to get a consistent spot in the lineup, what more for Patrik Laine? It just indicates the forward depth of the Montreal Canadiens. Not necessarily because everybody is super good, but because there are enough good enough guys that makes it very difficult for a guy like Laine to just come back into the lineup and be owed a spot. So with all that said, let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. Laine, LA, yay or nay? What are your thoughts on him being given permission to seek a trade? I hope you enjoyed this Swedish Ash Roll 99, and bye.